Okay, whenever you're
This is
ready.
about the compilation, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. We know that the Quran was an oral message given in words to the Prophet ﷺ, and he passed by reciting those verses to his followers, who also recited them and passed them to other people. It remained an oral message throughout his life, but in the meantime it was also documented, recorded down, written, so that it can be preserved. When the Prophet ﷺ passed away, we are told that the whole Quran was in written form. It was in the hearts and minds of the people who recited them, but in the meantime it was also recorded. But it was not in a book form, and it was not kept in one place, but of course everyone took the portion he liked and he appreciated. In this way, Quran was at the time when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. After his death, some incident happens which made Muslims think about the compilation and collection of the Quran and putting the verses in one place. That was the battle, wars which took place after the death of the Prophet. Many Arab Bedouins, they reverted back to their old religion, and many false prophets emerged among them. Then the first caliph, the successor of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr, decided to fight them, and he went on war with them. And it was a very difficult war. Many senior Muslims were killed. Many of them had Quran in their hearts. They memorized the book, and they were killed in those wars. So Omar became alarmed with this incident, and he suggested to Abu Bakr that we should compile the Quran, put the whole message in one place in book form. Initially Abu Bakr did not agree. He said that, well, if the Prophet ﷺ has not done it, why should I do it? But Omar persisted and said that, look, this is something good. We must do it in order to preserve the book in its original form. At the end, Abu Bakr agreed, and they summoned a junior companion of the Prophet with the name of Zayd ibn Sabit and asked him to do the job. Zayd was not ready to do it. He was scared because it was a very serious matter to compile the revelations which came to the Prophet ﷺ in one place. He tried to make all kind of excuses, but he failed to convince Abu Bakr and Umar and turn them from their views. Abu Bakr said to him that, look, we chose you because you are a young man, you are intelligent, and there is no any accusation against you, and you are writing for the Prophet ﷺ. So he mentioned 4 qualifications, 4 matters which were found in Zayd ibn Sabit for which he was qualified to take this difficult job. You are young, so you are energetic. You can go from one house to another, from one person to another, to find out whether there was any written material from the Quran with them. And then intelligent. So you will be able to distinguish between what is authentic and correct and what is wrong. And then thirdly, that nobody has anything against you. You are clean. You are a person who has been accepted by the whole community. There is no any false accusation against you. any kind of doubt about your dignity, about your decency. There was nothing like that. So you are a clean person, a very good guy, so you should carry. And then fourthly, that you are writing for the Prophet means that you have experience. So you have experience. Now for these reasons we are taking you and giving you this task to carry out. Then of course Zayd was overwhelmed and overcome by their argument, and he accepted the job. And Omar announced to the people that anyone who has anything of the Quran, any part of the Quran written with him, he should bring it to the mosque. And in some report he said that they sat down at the gate of the mosque to receive any material which the people brought. So Omar was taking part in that process. So Zayd was not alone. As a matter of fact, the whole community became involved. All of them took part in this process because they thought that this was something they must do now. So they collected all the things, and they had this condition for including anything in the book that it must be written, and there must be 2 people at least who memorize it by their heart. So they can be verified. The written document against what the people remember in their heart of this part of the Quran. So this was done. The whole thing was collected and then kept with Abu Bakr. This is the very standard account of how compilation of the Quran is started. Then it remained with Abu Bakr through his regime. When he passed away and the rule came to Umar, he became the caliph. It came to his custody and remained with him. When Umar passed away, somehow this copy went in the possession of Hafsa, Umar's daughter and one of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. Why did it happen? The very simple explanation will be that after Umar's demise, there was not immediately someone elected as his successor, but rather he left the matter with 6 people to choose one of them. He said that these are the people. They asked the companion, the followers asked him to appoint someone. He said, no, I'm not going to appoint someone, but these 6 people, the Prophet ﷺ passed away and he was very happy with them. So choose one of them and then make him my successor, make him the ruler of the community. So it took time, it took days before Usman was elected. So during that period, Hafsa, who was very close to her father Umar, she took some of the important materials from his house, and among them was this copy of the Quran. And for some reason, Usman did not ask her to surrender it because it was an official copy, a copy which was with the caliphs before him, so it should be given to him. But he did not say anything, and it remained with Hafsa. So it so happened after that there was some kind of dispute among the people, mainly those who are away from Medina, concerning reciting. Some people thought that their reciting was better than the others, and others contested that no, what I am reading is the most authentic and correct one. So a senior Sahabi with the name of Huzaifa bin Yaman, who was the commander of the army where this kind of problem rose, he rushed to Medina to tell Osman that, look, the community has started disputing and arguing about the book of Allah, Quran. So before the matter should go out of hand, do something. Then Osman accepted and knew that it is very urgent matter and it must be done. So he made a committee of 4 people, and made Zayd ibn Sabit, the very person who had worked in the first compilation, he made him the chairman of the committee. But the committee also included 3 other people, Abdullah ibn Zubair, and Sa'id ibn al-As, and Abdul Rahman ibn al-Haris, all young people, very young people, in their maybe 20s or 30s. Why Usman chose these young people? For a very simple reason, that these people may have taken or must have taken the Quran in the final shape, final form, in which the Prophet ﷺ recited and he taught them. So there will be no problem. It is the latest form in which the Prophet ﷺ recited and which should be taken as the final form. So these 4 people, they embarked on the task, and Usman said to the committee that though Zayd is the chairman of the committee because he had experience, if there is any dispute concerning a particular word, how it should be written or how it should be pronounced, so those 3, their verdict, their opinion will dominate because they come from Makkah. Zayd ibn Sabit was not from Makkah, he was a Medinan citizen. So the dialect of Quraysh, and the dialect of Makkah, of course, was different from the dialect of Medina. And since the Prophet ﷺ himself was from Makkah, so the Makkan dialect should dominate. It will be accepted, and the writing, it should be done in that particular way. So Zayd was not given the power of veto to do, but there was not very many differences between the members of committee, and the task was done. When it was completed, Usman made number of copies. How many, the reports are not very unanimous how many copies were made, but definitely there was 1 copy for Medina, for the Caliph, and another copy for Makkah, another copy for Bahrain or those areas, and then after, of course, for Kufa, Basra and other places. And we understand that immediately, as soon as the standard official copy of the Quran came out, the people must have started copying it and circulating it among their own people. So that was the final and standard copy. When it was made, Usman ordered all other copies to be brought to him and then destroyed. They were done so. Some companions, very senior companions like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he refused to surrender his own copy. As a matter of fact, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was not happy with the formation of the committee which did the task of compiling the Quran. His view was that he should have been included because he was a very senior Muslim, very senior companion of the Prophet ﷺ, and he was reading the Quran from the very beginning, and he was really expert in reciting. The Prophet ﷺ himself praised him. He said to his people that if someone wants to listen to the Quran fresh, as it was revealed from the heaven, he should listen it from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. So this certificate or this approval given by the Prophet ﷺ made Abdullah ibn Mas'ud think that he should be included in any committee or any group which is going to take the task of compiling the Quran. But he was not taken by Osman, and for the same reason, because there were some problems with Abdullah ibn Mas'ud that he considered certain parts of the Quran not to be part of the Quran. So anyhow, he did not like it and even criticized Zayd ibn Sabit and asked his own followers not to surrender the copy of the Quran they have. Usman did not take any action against him. He said, okay, leave him alone. I mean, he's not going to live forever. When he goes away from this world, we can get his copy and then destroy. And this is what happened. The same thing was done with Hafsa's copy. Hafsa has put a condition before giving the copy. She was asked to give the copy in order to use it for making the standard or official copy of the Quran. She said no. Then Osman said that no, look, we have to make a standard copy of the Quran and we need that copy which you have. And then after some argument, she agreed to give on condition that once the job is finished, she will get back her copy. So Usman gave back to her copy, and again for the same reason he did not ask her to surrender again and try to destroy, saying that, well, when she is no more there, we can get hold of the copy and then destroy it. And this is what happened. So that was the standard copy, and it was written in a particular script, which is even today you find written on the Quran, that it is written on Rasm Usmani, the script of Usman, the way which was written at the time. And there are certain differences between the modern writing of Arabic and the writing of Quran in that fashion. Sometimes it can really change the meaning upside down, but it is retained. And for that reason also, the learning of the Quran is to be done by both oral and from the book. So I said the Quran should not be learned only from the book, because the book really has some variations, some variety in the script. And when it is read, then the real pronouncement will be obtained. So a teacher must be there for it. So anyhow, that was how it was done. Then, of course, after that copy, after the standard copy, they were circulated among the Muslims and people started using it. But remember that Muslims or Sahaba or Arabs of Medina and Mecca, they had no idea of book. It was a big challenge to them to compile the Quran and put it in the form of a book. But they did it. How they can arrange the material, this was another challenge. Earlier, the Arabs in their poetry, if they wanted to make any kind of document, they used to put the longest odes, longest poems first and then shorter one later on. It seems that they must have followed this formula there in the Quran as well. The Quran which we have today, or the one which was arranged by Usman's committee, is not done in chronological order. The first portion which was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ comes at number 96. So it was not in chronological order by date, but rather the longest surah comes first, and then it goes down, longest and then the one which is shorter and then the one which is shorter, but that is not followed really exactly throughout the Quran, which gives the impression to someone that anywhere they had an idea that the Prophet read them in that sequence, they kept it. So for example, you find 7 surah at the end of the Quran from number 40 to number 46. They are of various length, but they are put together. It gives the impression that the Prophet ﷺ must have been heard reciting them in that sequence. And also many other places, that formula of length is not considered. Say for example, we continue until we come to surah number 13, 14, 15. They seem to be shorter in their place. But well, they are inserted there, and it must be for the same reason that they were recited by the Prophet ﷺ in that fashion. Now, who made this arrangement of surah? There is no question about the arrangement of verses inside the surah. All Muslims believe that this was done by the Prophet ﷺ himself. What he used to do, anytime he received a new message, new portion, he invited the writer, the people who were given the task of writing down the verses of the Quran, and told them to put this piece in surah so and so, and after the verse so and so. So he fixed the place of those passages, those verses, and the surah in which they were going to be put. So in this way, the arrangement of verses inside a surah, they were done by the Prophet ﷺ on divine guidance. So nobody is allowed to tamper with them. But who did arrange the surah? That is a big question. And it seems that early people didn't bother about it, and they felt that this was the work of the committee of Osman. Even there is a report that Abdullah ibn Abbas, one of the person who was really expert in Quranic studies, asked Osman that how did you do it, and why did you not put Bismillah between surah number 8 and 9? So, and you put this some surah there, some surah there. So Usman explained that because the Prophet ﷺ himself did not put Bismillah in the beginning of surah number 9, I decided to leave it as it was. So they followed exactly anything which they got from the Prophet. So it doesn't seem that really it was the Prophet who had made this arrangement. In the modern time now, we find many Muslims who really believe that this arrangement was done by the Prophet and the instruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't work. For another very good reason, that we are told by many people who wrote about the history of the Quran, early people like Suyuti and Zarkashi and others, they give us information about other codices, other copies of the Quran which some companions made for themselves, like Ali bin Abi Talib, like Miqdad, like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud and others. And they mention the arrangement of surah. And we find that surah are not in the same order which is in our own Quran which we are using today. If the arrangement was done by the Prophet, if surah inside the Quran were arranged by the Prophet ﷺ, nobody could have touched it. Nobody had any authority to change. But now we have these examples. In the Mus'haf of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, for example, we have number 2 and then number 4 and number 3. You know the changes, Baqarah and then An-Nisa and then Ali Imran. While we have this Baqarah, Ali Imran and Nisa. And also we are told that Ali bin Abi Talib tried to arrange the Quran in chronological order. Really we wish that that would have come down, so we would have been able to understand this arrangement and the message of the Quran as it went with the community. But of course, since Osman destroyed all the existing copies, we have no way. Many Orientalists, they criticize Osman. Why should he destroy? Why didn't he leave them? Well, it was a very good action by Osman not to create problem, not to make community confused about any other matter. So he made one standard copy which was accepted by all. Nobody had any objection. Even Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, the one who objected to surrender his copy, he did not have any objection about the existing copy. And as we must understand that what was humanly possible, these people did it. They did not leave anything which was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ out of the Quran, out of this copy they made. And they did not include anything which was not part of the Quran inside this Mus'haf. The condition they followed very strictly, that anyone who brings some portions must be written, must produce written evidence, and then at least 2 people witnessing for it. When it was not found, not fulfilled, they did not include. Many people claimed, even Umar claimed, that the verse of the Quran which speaks about stoning to death for the adulterers, he said that I heard the Prophet reciting it. But no, it was not accepted because there was no enough proof to consider it a part of the Quran. Aisha also had some suggestion that this, I think, was the part of the Quran. No, where is the evidence? Where is the written proof, and where is the proof in the form of people who memorized it? So what was humanly possible, it was done. And when it was done, there was no objection. Once Ali said that, look, don't say anything about Osman. If I were in his place, I would have done the same thing. So even Ali accepted, because there is a kind of rumor, I will say. Because if you ask a Shia alim, he will say that he accepts this Quran as authentic record of what was revealed. But rumor, it goes that they feel that this is not authentic. It has reduced, some certain parts have been taken out. But which are the part? Give us evidence for that they do not produce. And as I said, I will consider it as a rumor, because Shia community uses the same Quran which is used by Sunnis. So that is an authentic standard copy of the Quran. Nothing is missing, nothing from outside is included. So that is how the Quran is. Then, as I said, that it was not very easy for Arabs to produce a book, but the book was there now. And Arabic language in itself was not really fully developed. We don't know when Arabic language came into existence, but the historians tell us that it was not more than 150 years before the emergence of Islam that Arabic language was introduced in the society and became a language. And of course, it was used by the poets first, and then of course by those people who were orators and gave speeches. So it was a new language, comparing Hebrew, Syriac, and other language of the peninsula, Arabian Peninsula. So it was a new language anyhow. So it was not fully developed. The consonants were not distinguished from one another. The vowels were not clear. There were no signs to put the vowels. Arabs, they read it by their instinct. But now there will be many non-Arabs who enter Islam and they would like to read the book. But this book becomes very difficult for them to read. So attempt from the very beginning, after Osman's copy came out, attempts were made to make Arabic language very easy and readable for anyone, whether Arab or non-Arabs. So first task was to distinguish consonant from one another. And then it took time. It is said that Ali started took the initiative, and then some other people contributed. But it may not be the work of one person. It is impossible. So many people, and generation after generation, they contributed, and then it reached where we have the Quran today. So first, some signs, some colors were used to distinguish one consonant from the other. Then this system of dots came. That if you have one dot above the letter, it becomes noon. Below the letter, it becomes beh. Two dots on the top of the letter will be tah, and then two dots below it will be yah. All these dots were introduced, and the number of names are mentioned. And a few names are mentioned there, including even Hajjaj, the governor of Iraq, and Abul Aswad ad-Duli, a very famous grammarian, and Yahya bin Ya'mur, and Nasr bin Asim. So many names are there, but not a single person can be credited to introduce all this good system. Then after that came the question of voweling, vocalizing, how the vowels should be put. And then with process, with the stages, now we have the complete system of vowel in the Quran. But remember, some of the remnants of those days still remain. There is a difference between Moroccan script of Arabic, the one which is used, as we say, the western part of Islamic world, starting from Libya to the west, and eastern part of the world, starting from Egypt down to Baghdad and Saudi Arabia. That here the letter F has, in this eastern part, the letter F has one dot on the top, and Qaf has two dots on the top. In Moroccan writing, western part, there is one dot for F below the letter and one on the top for Qaf. So still some, signs of those days still remain. And also in vocalization, you see the difference. Now the Quran printed in Saudi Arabia cannot be read easily by a man from Pakistan or any other Asian country, because their voweling is different from what they have learned. So they required a Quran printed in that system. So when King Fahd's complex started publishing Quran for free distribution, the first time they printed in Arab style and gave it to the pilgrims. They took it happily, but they found out that they cannot read. So it was suggested to the complex that, look, this kind of Quran will not work with these people. You have to print in the way they have been taught. And then now they are making both type of Quran, printing both type of Quran to be distributed, and also in two holy mosques, both are there. So this is how it is. It is the final stage that now we have very perfect design, perfect script with all the distinguishing features of consonants and vowels and vocalization. So now this is there. But it still remains the problem of reciting properly, pronouncing the Arabic word as they should be. And for that reason, a teacher is needed, because the script cannot teach like that. The similar letters, the letters of similar sound, they are separated from one another by a very unique difference, which could be learned only by from a teacher. A person cannot discover by himself. So still a teacher cannot be dispensed with. He is needed. And for that reason you find that the schools and madrasas for teaching Quran, learning Quran are found throughout the Muslim world. So this is how it is. And then also the pronunciation. That is what Quran must be read properly. As Allah said, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. It must be read with tartil, with tajweed. Tajweed means to pronounce every letter from its proper place in the mouth, and then giving the same sound which should be given to it. So that is very important. There is a full course for tajweed to learn how to recite the Quran and how to pronounce the words, the Quranic words. So one is required to do it. But anyhow, it is not very important condition that if you don't know tajweed you cannot recite. No. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged his community to struggle and to make attempt to read the Quran in any way. He said that if a person is very expert in reciting the Quran, he does it perfectly as it should be done, then of course his rank is with the angels. But if a person is not so good in reciting and find it difficult to pronounce, and he tries his best, Allah will give him double reward, because he is making attempt, at least he is trying. So this is how it is. So we find that the recitation of a man from non-Arab countries is very different from those which come from Arab countries. So the differences are still there, but it is required that a person should try to make his reading exactly as it should be and get bigger reward from Allah. So the book is now there. And now, of course, it is used by all the people from different countries and in different scripts. Anything more? The whole Quran was revealed in this fashion, that Gabriel came down with the message, that quantity which Allah decided to be revealed, and passed it to the minds and to the heart of the Prophet Muhammad. So only in this way Quran was revealed. In the modern time, really the scholars use number, because the surah, of course, as they are inserted in the Quran, put in the Quran, they have number from 1 to 114. So people find it easy to just put the number and then of the surah and number of the verse. By the way,